Today, I want to tell you how I sold my expensive New Jersey home and used the proceeds to pay almost half of the price of my new Delaware home. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Aja, and recently I decided to downsize and relocate to a more affordable area. The reason I put the word downsize in air quotes is because really the only thing I downsized was my expenses. The home that I wound up purchasing is actually larger, younger, and it has more of the features that I want in a home when I compare it to the New Jersey home. So it actually worked out really, really well. Of course, there were advantages and pitfalls to making this move, so I want to discuss those as well. Initially, when I retired in 2022, I panicked because I wasn't sure if I could live off of a such a low pension. I've been living off of the savings, the short-term savings from working, and I also have a bit of long-term savings in the bank. So I haven't had trouble so far paying my bills. But in about, let's say, August of 2024, I realized by looking at my budget that eventually I would deplete my savings if I continued just not working at all. And so I'll tell you next what are some things that inspired me to really actively pursue this plan. But first, let me explain the details of what I was dealing with on my budget. So, my monthly mortgage was around 1800 per month. My HOA fee was 270 a month, and my annual taxes were approaching 7,000 per year. HOA stands for Homeowners Association. So, I had a condo, which means that I owned basically the inside of my house, but that I was a joint owner of the common areas of the community. So the outdoor space, the parking lot, entryways, and all of the outdoor stuff, the HOA would take care of replacing, repairing, maintaining. And then each homeowner was responsible for the inside of their unit. So in any case, the HOA fee, the taxes, and homeowners insurance increase every year. Now, the mortgage includes the tax, at least my mortgage includes the taxes and the homeowners insurance. And those amounts were just going up every year. And I was seeing that I would have a deficit of about $900 per month if I just lived off of my pension. So basically, I couldn't live off my pension and stay in that home. I would eventually, once my savings were depleted, I would eventually not be able to afford to live in my home. So there were three main things that I realized that kind of made me feel better, that made me feel like I could actually get out of the situation. The first was my home equity. So, equity is the value of your home minus what you owe on it. I purchased the home in 2018 for 250. That was the sale price. I put some money down and I had been paying off my mortgage for the 6 years that I lived there. So by the time 2024 came around, I owed about 230, a little over 230K on it, but the value had significantly increased. Now, my first experience seeing this home equity and what it could do for me was in 2021 when my HVAC broke. So in 2021, I needed about $8,000 to replace the HVAC system. And at that time, I learned that there are ways that you could use your home equity without selling your home, but you could get cash out, or you could borrow against your equity, create a loan for yourself and basically borrow your own equity. And or you could refinance to get cash out. And that's what I did. I decided to refinance. And that at that point, my home was worth probably over 300K. I don't remember all of the specific amounts, but I owed 220 in 2021. By refinancing, I got a lower interest rate, so my monthly payment went down. But of course, there were fees involved. So I didn't get the full amount of that equity out. And they don't want to give you the full amount anyway. They want you to keep some equity in your home. But at that time, 300 minus 220 is 80K. So the value, the equity in my home was about 80K. I got maybe 65 of that back in cash. I used some of it to pay off my pension loan, and I used some to, of course, replace the HVAC system, and the rest I put into an emergency fund long-term savings account. So that was in 2021, and that was the impetus for retiring. Once I paid off that pension loan, I was free and clear to retire once my 25-year mark came. And then in 2024, I started seeing that my equity was even more. I started seeing my neighbors selling their homes for 30 to 40K more than what they had asked, their asking price. And I was really excited to see if that could happen for me. So that was a big impetus, a big realization to actually actively start the process of selling my home. The second realization was that the cost of living was going to go up every year due to inflation. And so that $900 plus deficit was just going to continue to grow year after year. And on the same note, my pension was not going to grow because I don't have what's called a COLA. COLA stands for cost of living adjustment. And so my 36K pension would just stay 36K every year and basically be worth less with each coming year. And that would amplify my problem. So that lit a fire under me to really begin to actively pursue selling my home, downsizing, relocating. And the third realization I had came with just thinking about what I did with my car. So in 2020, I purchased a used vehicle. It was 1 year old and it had been used by the dealership as a loaner car. So I paid 13K for the car. And it served me well. I really had no problem with it. But in 2023, I started thinking, maybe I should trade this car in and get a brand new car. I had heard that used cars were holding their value due to supply chain issues beginning in 2020. So I was just curious, and lo and behold, my car had held its value, and I was able to trade it in for around 13K toward the purchase of a brand new car. And I only had to finance 10K for that car. And so by the time August of 2024 came around, due to me paying double payments, trying to pay the car off early, I only owed less than 5,000 on that car. And I was looking at my budget at that time in August, and it occurred to me that once the car is paid off, that $900 deficit will not be 900 anymore. It'll be 500. So paying off the car will clear over $400 and give me that opportunity to play around with $400 more dollars. And that inspired me to think about either paying off my mortgage somehow on the current house or selling it and using the proceeds to buy something less expensive and not have a mortgage at all, or, have a much lower mortgage. And then not only would I not have a deficit at all, but I would have a surplus, a major surplus, and really, really live my best life. Go where I want, do what I want, buy what I want, save even more money, invest even more money. And so those three realizations are what caused me to actively pursue selling, buying, downsizing, and relocating. Well, I'm going to stop the conversation here and continue in a part 2. So again, thank you for joining me. And if you are curious about anything or you have suggestions for me, please leave them in the comments. And in the meantime, stay inspired and keep thriving. See you in the next video.